And I ran across, I was doing a little research on this subject that we had today. Ran across this, I thought it was pretty interesting, and I thought that I would share this with you. Touch screens and infotainment systems probably seem like relatively recent automotive innovations, but Buick, of all people, first integrated them back when Pong was a cutting edge game.
Pong.
Remember Pong?
Yes.
And Top Gun was playing in the theaters.
First release?
1986, the Buick Riviera became the first production car to have a touchscreen and infotainment system. Every Riviera came with a 9-inch screen equipped with a graphic control center, or GCC as they called it, infotainment system. Of course, the green and black display, remember those?
Yeah.
The green and black display is archaic today, but back then it seemed space age. Advertisements bragging that the device replaced 91 dashboard controls. Drivers could use it to view fuel economy information, check the gas levels, adjust climate control settings, change the radio station, and crank up the volume so you could hear then current hits like Rock Me Amadeus loud and clear. Remember that?
That's good music.
Later, it offered an electronic compass, a cell phone directory, an in-car phone, and a multicolor display later on.
Right.
The snazzy tech even found its way into more luxurious Buicks like the Riata and select Oldsmobile models.
Hey, that's.
Did you know that?
Yep.
Well, you were working there then,
Yep,
weren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Of course, some drivers had a beef with the new technology. For starters, it beeped loudly every time it registered a command. So you touch the screen, beep.
Yep. Well, that was to tell you it did something.
And some drivers found the touch screen distracting, still today. It seemed the world wasn't quite ready for touchscreens in cars, and features, well, virtually extinct by the 90s. Nowadays, GPS systems, rearview cameras, and smartphone integration, even track apps are here to stay, it seems.
And the track apps are the newest thing that a lot of people are adding to more and more vehicle lines. I think the track app was originally kind of a Corvette piece, and now it's on a lot of the FCA products as well.
So joining us now is Cathy Risk, and she's with J.D. Powers. Cathy, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. Well, we can't hear Cathy. So, Cathy, just stand by because Mr. Mars.
There we go. There we go.
There you go, Mr. Mars. Okay. Mr. Mars is in control of your audio, not me.
Sorry.
So it's
no problem.
It's all
Thank
on
you
him.
for inviting me.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. So, Cathy, let's talk about infotainment systems. You heard the story about Buick being the very first. Well, what about today? I mean, how are things today as far as infotainment systems are concerned? I mean, it seems that some manufacturers get it more than others. Is that what you found?
Oh, definitely. I have some slides I can share if you don't mind.
Yes, we're more than happy. Please go right ahead. We'd love to see them.
Oh, I think I'm disabled on screen sharing, but they've changed significantly from a few years ago even. I can try and share this again here.
Okay, go ahead. I mean, it's okay. This is an internet broadcast, so
there you go.
There you go. We got you now. Very good.
Okay. So, I mean, even if you look back, on the left there, like you were just talking about, it wasn't so long ago that that's what screens looked like, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
And in a very short period of time, we've emerged to these large screens and this integration of either portrait or landscape design like the Mercedes or the Tesla or even dual screens. But, not all manufacturers are still not getting that experience, right? Because customers want it to be more smartphone-like, where it's intuitive and very easy to understand. And they're still struggling with a lot of technology that's offered in these systems.
What is the problem? Why? I mean, the manufacturers, I know that they do a lot of research, but when it comes right down to selling cars and then customer satisfaction with that infotainment system, there seems to be a real split there in many cases with some of these things that manufacturers are offering.
Yeah, the experience, like take voice recognition, for example. In a lot of manufacturers' vehicles, it's still a very rigid process. So, slowly they're moving to more of an internet-based capability where you're getting more natural language, which is what customers have become accustomed to with their smartphone. But a lot of them still don't. So if you're looking for, a point of interest, in some systems you still have to do find POI, gas station. It's all these levels that there's many opportunities for it to fail. And we found at JD Power that in a very short period of time, within 90 days, if customers have trouble, they tend to stop using it. So, and now there's alternatives like Android Auto and CarPlay, where that's much easier for them to have that experience that they're used to on their phone now in their vehicle.
And that's really the manufacturers depending on Android and Apple to develop the software, and all they do is integrate it to the car, as opposed to the manufacturers developing their own software. I had a 2006 Cadillac STS V Series that had voice command, and if you didn't use the exact word they wanted, it got you nowhere. It was extremely frustrating. Much less if you had an accent, it didn't understand you either.
No, it definitely doesn't understand accents. It's a lot of complaints. And even now with like Bluetooth connections, at first people had trouble pairing those to the vehicle, but now it's moved to they're not staying connected. So there's a lot of complaints still. One of the big issues at JD Powers from a consumer perspective is the fact that their Bluetooth loses the connection. So again, having this Android Auto CarPlay experience is so much easier for a lot of customers. But the problem is the manufacturers don't want to lose the customer like they did years ago to the car phone.
Well, and the one that I can come up with right off the top of my head is Ford and their sync system, which was revolutionary several years ago at the time because it allowed you to do so many things within the car. But the problem is that its system itself didn't work very well, and they wound up having to update it quite quickly after they originally debuted it. So I know that manufacturers now, instead of having to take the car into the dealership, a lot of them are doing over-the-air kind of updates.
Yeah, over-the-air updates is going to be a game changer for vehicle manufacturers. I'll just switch to this side if you don't mind, but that's going to change those software bugs. So, people very rarely took their vehicle in to get a navigation map updated. So there were lots of complaints that the information, was out of date. There was some, new gas station down the street that still never showed up in their system because obviously it was an onboard system. So this has been a big game changer for OEMs as they start to integrate this for the entire vehicle. It will make a big change, and instead of having a car that becomes so dated.
So, Cathy, do you still think that the manufacturers are going to continue to develop their own as opposed to just saying, okay, we get it, here, just plug your smartphone in or Bluetooth your smartphone into the car, and we'll just let you take it from here?
Well, I think there's a lot of internal debates at a lot of manufacturers whether this is worth it or not. But in the long term, I think they don't want to lose that customer experience to an outside app, right? And so they're trying very hard. So you're seeing a lot of new technology, including like the integration of vehicle apps, so you can control your app from, in your home, as well as through the head unit in your car. So things like, sending destinations to your car, setting boundaries if your kids are using the car, to integrating Alexa so you can do remote start and other capabilities both outside of the vehicle and inside the vehicle.
Oh, yeah, just what I want is Alexa to react to something I say when I'm driving my car in heavy traffic.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, one of the other things I've noticed is at the dealership level, they actually have experts that will take the customer who's already bought the vehicle either at the purchase point or in a meeting afterwards, after the purchase point, and teach them how to use parts and pieces of their systems, and then come back for like a 101, a 102, and a 103 class.
Yeah, that's very helpful because at the dealership, we find that most people spend about 30 to 45 minutes after purchasing the car, and they could have been there for hours. So, it's hard for them to take in all of this information, not only in the head unit, but they're learning a lot about the ADAS safety features in the car. And so coming back at another point in time when they've had a chance to use it a bit and then learn about some of this capability will definitely help people.
Well, Cathy, with us in getting press fleet vehicles frequently, we found out that these manufacturers put in, well, if you want to put it mildly, actual manuals of the things that are available within the infotainment system. Are you kidding me? It's like a yellow pages for the city of New York City.
Yeah, and I think you'll find most people don't actually use those.
No, they don't. In fact, one manufacturer, I actually tried to go find the manual because I couldn't figure out something. And it was online. And I'm going, how do I get online if I can't figure out how to get into your system to do it? I mean, I had to get on my phone to go to their website to be able to check out their system.
While you were driving the car? Come
Well,
on, Mike.
I parked it. Let me just say, I parked it. I was so mad. I was back to where Alexa would have been really unhappy with what I was saying.
So, Cathy, let me switch gears here for just a second. Let's talk about research that the manufacturers do. And I know that you guys are probably more in tune than we are at J.D. Power. But I know for a fact that manufacturers spend a lot of time, money, effort, and research into what customers want, what they need, and what the manufacturer can supply them. Do they not?
Oh, absolutely. They spend millions and millions of dollars building these systems, incorporating all of those aspects you just mentioned.
So how do they go so badly wrong? I mean, I know that there is a curve when it comes to manufacturing the actual whatever it is, widget that they're producing, including infotainment systems, and it takes a long time to integrate that into the car. Do you see them ramping up the time that it takes from the time that they develop it to the time that they do the research and actually put it in the car?
It's definitely moving more toward a faster pace with software for the infotainment integration from development till when it's actually launched. And they do try very hard to get user input into that design and development. And we actually work with the OEMs and suppliers and trying to help them integrate voice of customer. But oftentimes, there's something that from an engineering perspective, it seems like it's very simple to use, but we find it's often misaligned with the target customer for that vehicle.
Interesting. Well, as we kind of wrap up this segment, by the way, we're going to have Cathy back at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to talk about the actual integration and use of the infotainment systems. But Cathy, what else is J.D. Power found out in this research that you've done?
Mostly that, as I mentioned, you have this 90-day window to really get customers to use your system. And we're finding is now that there's roughly last year in 2019, we had about 70% of customers saying they had the option for Android Auto and CarPlay. And so, we, as OEMs, they don't want to lose that customer. So they've got to find a way to have more of a smartphone-like experience for those consumers so that they will stay in the native system.
I went last year. It's interesting you say that, thinking about some of the things you said earlier. There was one car brand that I went on, and I can't remember exactly which one it was. It was one of two. But regardless, the base entry model, they didn't give you an option of an onboard system. They gave you the cables you plugged in your phone, whether you wanted Android or whether you wanted Apple, and that was your choice on the two base models. And we ask about that. Why don't you offer something a little more? They do on their higher end levels. There was 4 trim levels. The bottom 2, they felt like that was where their customers were because it was an entry-level vehicle, and they were going to be more attuned to using the Apple or the Android, so they didn't even bother putting a full system in it. And I thought that was kind of weird.
No, there are some manufacturers that are simplifying their system, especially on base models, because they feel like the investment isn't paying back for them. So you'll see some that, like VR, where it's difficult for customers to use, they kind of strip out what commands can be done, or on the base model, some of them don't even allow native VR, right? So you can get VR through, Android Auto or CarPlay.
Cathy, it's great talking to you. How informative is this? We'd love to talk about this. We could spend hours talking about it. Matter of fact, come on over and have a beer with us. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Michigan.
You're in Michigan. Come on down. We can arrange a flight in just a couple of minutes, and come on down. We can sit around and have a beer.
Michigan,
That'd be great.
Michigan's still in lockdown.
Oh, they are. That's it. Never mind.
Yeah, we're still locked down.
Yeah. So in light of that, we'll just keep you there, and we're going to check back with you in about 15 minutes. And when we're going to talk about getting the most out of your infotainment system. Are you up for that?
I am looking forward to it.
Cathy, we thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you in just a little bit. All right, we've got that coming up, and a review of the hot Toyota Supra that Mr. I don't even have to say his name. Mars got to drive.
Oh, don't get me going about Mars driving a Supra.
That's all coming up.
I want to hear about the on-ramp acceleration test.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It's all coming up here on the In Wheel Time program. Stay with us.
Man, I love my kids so much. Hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know why this is missing, but it was supposed to be a little music interlude there, but it says on my screen that it's missing.
I'm
so
disappointed that you didn't give me a proper intro.
do me a favor.
So it's more inter than lewd?
Whistle the Andy Griffith theme song.
Okay. The background choir is handling that.
I can tell that. All right, welcome back to the In Wheel Time program. So glad that you could. Okay, we're done.
That's what you get for using the cheap seats in the audience over here.
The peanut gallery here.
Exactly. Hey, one of the features that we have on our program every week is the new car review. Mr. Mars this past week or so got to drive the Toyota Supra. The Supra, how much is that car? Is it $50,000?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
Why even ask?
Of course. Well, why don't you just go ahead and tell us? But before you start, I have to tell everybody that we got some new chairs that we're sitting in. We got them a couple of weeks ago when Mr. Mars had the Supra. Well, the problem was that he couldn't get the chairs in the car. So he had to bring the truck, and we were all disappointed because we weren't able to see the Supra. Well, I've got my order in for one.
Well,
maybe it's the same one, but there won't be any chairs in it. Okay, it's all yours.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of room for that, but it's not designed for that. It's never intended for that, and even the first generation of the Supra was never intended for that. So we're talking about a 2020 Toyota GR Supra. Now, it comes in 3 different trim levels. You got your base, you got a 3.0 premium, and then you have what they're calling the launch edition. They're only going to produce 1,500 of these vehicles. So it's going to be kind of not only is the Supra itself kind of a limited edition or limited model, but now you've got this launch edition that's only 1,500.
Okay, so I'm sitting in the board meeting and I'm saying, okay, we're going to spend $500 million in development of this car, and we're only going to make 1,500 of them?
Of that
model trim level.
The trim level.
The trim level.
The launch edition trim level. Got a lot of special features on it, which I didn't have, so I'm not going there. We had the 3.0 premium level, so it's kind of the middle of the pack. And this is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. And it comes with launch control and a lot of really cool toys that you're going to want in a performance vehicle.
That thing's sexy,
now,
man.
Yeah, it is.
This was jointly developed with BMW. And it's really, if you look at it and you look at some of the underlying structure of it, it's the Z4. And the styling on it is pretty much vintage. They went back and they looked at the 1967-2000 GT Supra as well as the recent FT1 concept car. And that's where they took their styling cues to put this vehicle together and give it a really, really nice, sharp look to it. Now, you get to looking at it. And one thing I'm going to tell you that I was surprised to find out is this vehicle is actually 4 inches shorter. The wheelbase is 4 inches shorter than the other sports car that Toyota builds, the 86 that they call it.
This is shorter than the
wheelbase
86?
is shorter.
Okay.
Now, the overhang of the body in the front and the back, because of the style of it and all the vents and the intakes and exits and all that stuff, it gives it a longer body that looks bigger, but it's really 4 inches shorter on the wheelbase. Now, that makes a big difference in how the way this thing's going to handle. But we'll get to that. So, on the outside, obviously, you're going to find they've got LED lighting, which I love the fact that in these performance vehicles, they're putting in this auto-leveling headlights. not only directional, but up and down the auto level. Daytime running lights, tail lights, everything's LED on this vehicle. And it's got a really long overhang in the front, and it's got a lot of vents that go in and out of it. And it looks like there's a lot more there than some of them are there for looks, obviously. And the same thing on the tail end of it. A lot of that styling.
I think there's a lot of function to all of
them.
them.
There is, but there's a lot of them though that are there for, they look cool.
Dude,
it's part of the styling on it.
Sexy car.
And this is the body style Toyota is currently using in the Xfinity series of NASCAR. You know how all of NASCAR has gone Camaro and Firebird and Mustang?
Right.
Well, in the Xfinity series, Toyota uses this. In the Cup series, they still use the Camry.
Looks-wise, this will blow the doors off of a Camaro. But anyway, and you can see it's rolling on some nice 19-inch twin 5-spoke aluminum wheels. Got the red Brembo brake setting there to kind of really offset it. Again, lots of vents, intakes. Got the fins on the back of it that's coming up on several different vehicles that Toyota's designing. Now, if you go to the interior of it, it's got these sports seats. Now, I'm going to tell you these are some fantastic front sports seats. Got the high bolsters in it, so that when you get into it, you feel like they really wrap you, kind of engulf over you, but they're not overwhelming. That's exactly what they are.
So you're sitting in the seat instead of on the seat.
Exactly. And, of course, they're leather. They're heated. The memory seat, the driver's got a memory seat on it. Now, I will tell you, for an old man like me, you got to get in this vehicle. But when you get down in there, it's like getting in a Corvette.
So, in other words, there's a problem with your flat rear end.
With that, yeah.
Flat Stanley?
That, too. but when you get in it, you just feel like you're part of the car there. Now, it's also got a full-color heads-up display on it. Got an 8.8-inch touchscreen on it where you get your navigation, your AC, Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay, not Android. Apple CarPlay.
Oh, wow.
Now, of course, there's no rear seat. But behind the two seats that are there, it's open all the way into the trunk space. There's no wall or anything there.
Like an old Corvette.
Yes, but it's also got what you would call, I guess, a hump that goes across there for the rear differential. That's where they put some speakers and stuff. Really nice setup there. So you get this nice sound system, this JBL 12-speaker audio system kind of feeding into it from the trunk, because it can also use the trunk as part of the speaker case and just really fill it up really nice.
Push the bass in. It's all about the bass.
All about the bass. Now, up front, you're going to find it's got a 3.0 inline 6-cylinder Don Armstrong.
I love inline 6s.
Which goes back to the historic Supra, which was always an inline 6-cylinder.
Well, BMW twin scroll turbo, same engine as the Z4. Mm-hmm. But in this application, it's 335 horsepower. Bump it over to the Z4, it's 382, which tells you can pick up a quick almost 50 horses with a little tune because it's the same motor. 365 pound-feet of torque with an 8-speed automatic behind it. No manual transmission available, but there is a manual mode.
Paddle shifters?
Paddle shifters, and they shift and get whenever you tell them to. EPA says if you're interested or you even care, then in the city you should get about 24 miles per gallon. Highway, it's 31. Combined, it's about 26.
That's good.
I thought it was really cool. Now, they do say that 0 to 60 is 4.16 seconds, 155 mile an hour top speed.
And you found out what?
I will tell you the 0 to 60, I don't have an exact stopwatch, but I will tell you that I would not argue that with them at all.
You know there's an app for that on your iPhone, right?
I'm busy shifting, man.
Have you had a grown man say to you in your old age, you really suck, Mike Mars?
Well, let's
the boys and their toys.
Let's keep going. So I will tell you now, out on the highway, it's got a firm ride. Now, again, it can be rough if you put it into full-blown sport setting, because depending on the road surfaces, because that's what you're asking it for. You're saying, I want that race car drive. So, and the part of that's because of the short wheelbase. Again, 4 inches shorter than the 86 Coupe. So if you're looking very much for that performance driving experience, other than the manual transmission, this is something that you need to look at. Now, if you're looking at something to compare it to, seriously, the Porsche 718 Cayman that starts at $57,500, the automatic starts at $60,000, a Chevy Corvette that starts at $59,995, or the Nissan 370Z, which is getting a little older, but if you're in a budget, then you can start into that at about $30,000. But really no comparison as far as
I like the way you just kind of fluff that off.
Yeah.
Forget that.
Last time I drove one,
just
it's no comparison.
that off, right?
Yeah.
But now, for the Toyota GR Supra, the base price, you can get into one of these for $50,920.
Oh, that's actually a very good price.
And the test base for the 3.0 premium, the one that we had, test base was $53,990.
$3,000 for the premium. That's pretty good value as well.
And we had a couple of little options on it.
Of course.
But again, MSRP as tested for a performance driving experience, whether you're on the road or on the track or going around a curve or drag strip, $58,280.
Don't try to buddy up to me. You still suck. The In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook.com/InWheelTime, on YouTube, Periscope, and at watch@InWheelTime.com. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. God, I hope I got them all in there. We have more of the In Wheel Time Car Show after a quick break.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still hasn't stopped. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Thanks for joining us here on the In Wheel Time program. We really appreciate it. It's America's most important car talk show. We are all things automotive, and we are on this frequency on your computer every weekend. What do you think about that?
Frequency.
Yeah, did you like that? It's called Old School, and you didn't call me out on it, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Time now for the car calendar and the racing calendar. We kind of combined the two because one of the things that we were talking about before we went on the air today is the fact that, man, oh man, all the cruise-ins are back. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff coming back, and we're going to have a short video of one that happened this morning that David Ainsley's son went to over off of Fuquay and I-45 at the detail garage. But let's talk about some other stuff that's coming up. So let's look at what's going on next weekend. On May 31st, the Forest Car Cruise is going to happen, and they're going to meet at the Best Buy out in Cathy at 8 a.m. and then take.
Hey, are you going to go to that?
I'm not sure if I'm going to go to that or not. I'm thinking I will.
I'm thinking I might join you out there.
Let's
That's
go
Sunday.
together. Yeah, it's Sunday.
Yeah.
So and then they're going to take a drive out east through some of the national forests.
Yeah.
So that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, okay.
The Bayou City Cup Series car show is coming back, and that's put on by Showplace Classics, and they are going to be on June 13th at Freddy's Frozen Custard in Katy, and that runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. June 14th, Sunday, Twin Peaks meet up in the Woodlands, and it's going to be Troy's 43rd birthday, but he calls it a car meet, but he says bring a bottle of Maker's Mark and he'll give you VIP parking.
Oh, for God's sakes. Yeah. That and $1,000 bill.
And then on the racing side of things, NASCAR started, and they've run a couple of races at Darlington. That Sunday, they're going to be running the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, and they are going to run a 600-mile race at Charlotte. Still nobody in the fans.
Too damn long.
Well, but that's the one that generally would stack with the Indy 500. They had to have something bigger and better than the Indy 500, so they ran 600 miles. But that's going to be Sunday, and then the following Wednesday, they're going to do another short race at Charlotte. So the NASCAR schedule is back on. The IMSA schedule, July 4th, IMSA is going to be running at Daytona. As far as I can tell, the Mopar Express Spring Nationals is still scheduled at Baytown June 20th, June 1920, the 12th through the 14th.
I don't think that's going to happen.
So, but they haven't killed it on the schedule yet, so I don't know what the status is. I don't know that they're going to be able to have the crowds that they generally have there, but they might run the race as a TV program.
I think they're going to move the race to October. That's just me, and I'm just guessing. I have no inside knowledge of any of that, but at any rate. All right. Thank you, sir. Hey, calling all car, truck, and Jeep clubs. We'd love to feature your bunch on our Car Club Spotlight. Just shoot us an email to info@inwheeltime.com. Please include your contact information, and we'll get your bunch on the air with us and online as well. In Wheel Time continues after this little snappy break.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome to In Wheel Time, America's award-winning car talk show. Your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars down there in his
Howdy, Mom.
in his red I'm in charge shirt, and Conrad DeLong in his Republican blue shirt. I'm Don Armstrong, and I'm not wearing a shirt. You just think that I am.
Or pants.
Or pants.
So don't stand up.
No, I promise that I won't. Okay, so in our first segment today, we talked to Cathy Risk from J.D. Powers, and she's back with us. We're talking today about infotainment systems, and we talked about the integration of infotainment systems in your car. We talked about infotainment systems and how they work, and manufacturers, discrepancies between manufacturers, the complexities of it all. We did all that. Now, let's talk to Cathy about getting the most out of your infotainment system. So, as I mentioned earlier, I said, you know, looking at the how-to manual, it's as thick as an old Yellow Pages phone book. So how do you get the most out of it? Spending hours in the driveway messing around with stuff?
I think right now that's really the only way to really experience it, right? There are some videos online that some consumers go and search out, but it's very difficult to experience it without just spending a lot of time with it. And we also find that, you know, some consumers are afraid they're going to change a setting or do something that will make the system work differently, and they won't know how to switch it back.
So what is the answer, Cathy?
Well, that's the $1 million question that nobody's been able to solve.
So what you're saying is there's a money-making opportunity there.
There definitely is a money-making opportunity. I mean, like we mentioned in the previous segment, you know, the owner's manuals, while well-intended to having those integrated to make it easier, not pulling out that 1 foot volume, it's, you know, it wasn't ending up being that useful.
Yep, we lost her.
Well, we lost her. Mr. Mars closed his laptop and
I was trying to fix the headset. My bad.
All right. There she is. So hold on. There you are, Cathy. You're back.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead, please.
I was just saying that, they thought that the owner's manual, like we talked about in the previous segment, would be a good solution to this, but a lot of people didn't know it was in there, and it still wasn't easy to use.
And so, we're quite familiar with not easy to use. So how do we overcome the not easy to use? Because let's face it, some of these manufacturers, even in let's say the $20,000 to $30,000 price range, it's still difficult to use. And I don't consider myself an expert in any of this stuff, but I drive a different car every week from a manufacturer's press fleet. And I have to tell you that some of these are a lot easier to use. For instance, Chrysler, FCA, and GM, I think that they're pretty easy to use. And Ford would be a third place on it, Chrysler being the easiest for me anyway. But there are some other manufacturers, and I'm just going to go out there and name it. Mazda, I think, that is way behind. And I don't know what the problem is, but it's difficult to use.
Yeah, I know a lot of Mazda vehicles still use the controller, which is very hard for people to use, versus a touch screen. So, I mean, manufacturers have a responsibility to keep moving that experience back into being more of a smartphone-like system, because that's the only way you're going to solve this problem. When we go in and look at systems, we're looking at, first time ease of use. Is that, how easy do you understand it? And then afterwards, usability. Can I remember how to use it? Do I remember where things are housed? So we see there's a lot of problems in there. And then when you get into navigation, there's issues with accuracy and reliability, where people feel they don't have that experience when they're using their smartphone, Google Maps, or Waze. So companies like Audi, they integrated Google Maps into the native system, which is going to make that experience better for consumers.
Well, Cathy, you mentioned it, and I wanted to definitely bring it up too. And that is these different systems that manufacturers somehow seem to think that theirs is the best. And let's just use Lexus for instance. First of all, it was a touchpad. Then it was a knob. And several manufacturers use them, but you know, now I've got to not only look at the screen, but I've got to look down at the center console with the knob, the buttons, and all of the other things that are going on with the infotainment system. I don't want that. It's too distracting. And so don't these manufacturers know this before they make it?
Yeah, I mean, there is some legacy carryover that they continue to offer that type of capability, and they've tried to refine it, but there's a high percent of customers that are still struggling with those type of interactions with the head unit. So, you know, not everybody wants touch screens. So when you talk to some consumers, especially in the luxury end, they don't want fingerprints on their screen. So there's still a small percent of those people, but those types of interactions with the system are difficult. And you've seen systems like BMW who have moved toward touchscreen, but they're also integrating gestures, which I would argue are very difficult for most people, especially if you like to talk with your hands. But they're trying to find other means.
Yeah, it's going to go hard for all the people in New York using their hands while you're driving by them.
Well, that's interesting. I have not experienced that yet,
No,
but I'm just wondering, how in the world does that work?
Well, frankly, it doesn't work well. You know? So, I mean, but you know, you've got to give them credit for trying some of these things. But, you know, gesture controls, again, that's a whole new learning module for most consumers in terms of, you know, what does a hand swipe up or what does that mean and what will it control? And they do offer, for their credit, they do offer some tips of when you can use it, and they show what you need to do that will appear on the screen. But it's still a very difficult tool, similar to the touchpad in other vehicles.
But do you find that some of these things, because some of them, like Don's talking about, like a Lexus or something, to me, some of these that are more, what I'll say, cumbersome to use for me, with buttons hidden on the back side of knobs where you got to look on the other side of it to see which button you're pushing, to me, isn't that kind of like up on the upper end, like up on the luxury trim levels?
Yeah, I mean, they started out in the luxury trim levels not integrating touchscreens. So they were using all these different methods, you know, like we've mentioned here. And those are much harder for consumers to use on average.
Huh. So when are the manufacturers going to go, okay, well, this hasn't worked? Do you find that some of these, I'm guessing that these integrated systems with the knob in the middle of the console, along with a touch screen or just the knob, that would be a deal killer for me. I mean, personally, if I'm going to spend somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 for a car, I want to see how that touch screen works because it's so important in my driving experience now. And if it doesn't work the way that I want it to work, that I'm comfortable with and easy to use, heck with that. I'm not buying that car.
Well, I mean, that's true. And one of the things that they're facing problems with is when you're integrating these larger displays, like these 12.3-inch displays, whether they're put in portrait or landscape, those are becoming harder for people to use from a touchscreen perspective, right? So you have to lean over to reach. So they haven't found the ultimate solution, which would obviously be voice recognition if they could get it to work in a more, you know, natural language or ultimately conversational.
But yeah. See, I worked for the phone company when the phone company tried that. And they figured out real quick, if you get a cold or you've just got a bad connection, there's a little bit of static or the dogs are barking in the background, nobody can understand you. Or it changes the voice enough that it can't be recognized. And to me, in the idea of doing it in a car, what if the windows are rolled down at 80 miles an hour and you got the wind buffering? It'll never understand.
Well, I drive a Ford Transit that has voice recognition, and when it's raining outside and the rain's pattering on the sheet metal, it doesn't understand a thing I say.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that was a long-term goal from years ago, but it hasn't integrated well. Obviously, we've run into all kinds of problems with wind noise, road noise, ambient noise in the vehicle. That's made that a more difficult process to use. But ultimately, so far, there's been no one interaction with the system that's been ideal. And as I said, touchscreen was supposed to be it, but now we're moving to those larger screens, which makes reach a problem. So they have to design those systems where the high use case soft keys are closer to the driver.
as well as the legacy systems. You know, Don talked about the touchpad down on the console. Well, if you've driven a Lexus for years and that's the system you used and you became used to it, now you want to buy the 2021 Lexus and they've changed the system, all of a sudden you have to go through a total relearning process, and that can be just as frustrating.
Kind of like buying a new cell phone.
Exactly.
So, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, absolutely. That's one of the reasons they don't abandon it, right? Is because these legacy owners, they've already been up that learning curve, and they don't want to just abandon that and have them start all over.
Right. People like me, I keep my cars 10 to 12 years. So, I lose a lot in the new technology coming in, but I get real comfortable with what I got.
You still have to use a key to unlock your door.
Yeah, you're right. I do. But to her point, you get it and you're going to stick it and you stick with it and keep that car for 10 years. Then whenever you come out of it, then it's totally different.
Oh, my God. My Corvette is 19 years old. It doesn't know anything about Bluetooth, GPS. It doesn't know any of that stuff.
It's completely ignorant.
Completely ignorant, like the driver.
So, Cathy, you got to that before I did.
So, yeah, exactly. So, Cathy, what would you recommend for folks that are watching our show today to get the most out of their infotainment system? What has J.D. Power learned through all the research that you've done?
Well, I think like we talked about in the first segment, really to get the most out of it, consumers tend not to want to read those big owner's manuals. So I think if your dealer's willing and you spend a week or two driving, 3 weeks driving that vehicle, when you've had some experience, see if you can go back and then learn a little bit more when you're not under, all the pressure of picking up that vehicle, and actually learn a bit more about that capability and what it can do. And you'll be able to absorb a lot more of it. If you try and take that all in.
I totally agree. My wife bought a Mercedes-Benz a couple of years ago and learned it for a couple of days, and then they invited her in for a class, and she's actually gone back now twice since then and has become much more integrated into how the infotainment system in the car works, as well as how it integrates to her phone and the app from the phone to make the car do stuff.
Yeah, the app, the connected to the car through the app is really the next big area. And a lot of that runs through the infotainment system. So we've added this new layer of complexity when we haven't even gotten the infotainment systems down right yet.
Well, Cathy, this has been a real pleasure to talk to you, and what great information you've had to share. Where can our viewers, the people that are watching us online, where can they go and get this information from J.D. Power?
We do have a lot of information on our website that, helps them when they're researching vehicles. So we can tell them, a version of our rating in terms of which ones are easier or more difficult to use.
Great. We're going to have everybody go and see you and wake you up in the middle of the night for our Chinese people that are watching us. Cathy, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much. We really appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday afternoon up there in Michigan. I hope the weather's good for you like it is here in Houston.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope you all have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
You too.
You do
Thanks.
the same. All right, Cathy Risk from J.D. Powers, and that's just the first part of our infotainment system. We're going to continue on with FCA in our next hour of the show. Time now for our Jeep Trails feature. In Wheel Times look at the Jeep lifestyle. Mr. Moore,
spit it out. Spit it out. So I was looking out there and seeing what all the different things we could do with Jeep. And, summertime's coming. It's Memorial Weekend. People are out and about. And while I was looking, I got led off of Jeep.com. I got led over to a place called treadlightly.org. Now, this is off of the Jeep website, so it's there. And what this is an outdoor educational thing, if you will. They deal a lot. What they do is they
doesn't have anything to do with nude beaches or anything, does it? Okay.
They work with recreational access and opportunities, and they promote outdoor ethics to kind of help take care of things. They do education and training about if you're out on the trails, how to tell, okay, this trail is not only is it necessarily, it may not be dangerous, but by going down it in your four-wheeler or on your Jeep or something like that, you may actually damage the environment because of the type of plants and terrain that's there. So they do some educational training there so that go around that. Don't necessarily just run over it because you can. And they do a lot of things as far as stewardship projects and programs. Like, if you go down to the beach, particularly after the last few weekends or after this weekend, a holiday weekend, you go down there, there's going to be trash. There's going to be people that are going to leave trash. Why? I don't know. But pick up your trash and take it with you and pick up somebody else's. Pick up a little extra to kind of help take care of the environment so that as our children and our grandchildren come up to try and use the environment, again, the outdoor lifestyle, they got to have an outdoors to go to.
Well, and the other thing is those locations want you to keep your place clean, and a lot of Jeepers do a very good job of keeping that place clean because that's the only way you're going to get invited back. Because if you just leave the place a total trash dump, they're just going to lock the doors, and you're not going to be able to get in.
And that's why I think this organization is tied into the Jeep website. It's like, I think it was 30 years old, and you can join it. You can help support some of the things they do and take advantage of some of these educational opportunities to help with the outdoor lifestyle.
Guess what we got coming up? We're going to debut the Mystery Garage.
Yeehaw.
Stay with us.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You know, it's kind of like Christmas morning, and you got the present all wrapped and everything, and the dog goes over there and opens it for you because there's some sort of treat or something hidden inside of it. And you don't want the dog to spoil it all, but the dog has spoiled it all.
Jeffrey, he just called you a dog.
Woof, woof, woof. So anyway, if you're watching, you got a little preview of what's inside the Mystery Garage. So the whole idea behind the Mystery Garage is to kind of highlight people's garages. Well, Studio A here really is a garage, kind of. It doesn't have a garage door on it, but, I mean, it would take the place of a garage, right? A small one, like a one-car garage. Well, I'm doing some digging around the internet, and I'm thinking some of these guys have got some really, really cool garages. I've got to get a picture of Stan's garage. Stan Holt? Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. He's got a hangar that is to die for. It's got a 1950s style drive-in inside of it.
Oh,
well,
cool.
This particular garage by Rob Shingle is what I consider probably one of the best garages that I have seen. It was one of the first that I was looking at. And I have to tell you that there are some very unique items in the garage. This is not something that you cannot do at your own house. I don't know whether you've noticed or not, but if you're looking at this picture closely, besides the Mercedes that's sitting in the front, check out the truck in the back. And I want you in the right-hand foreground to look at the antique workbench along with the antique stools that came out of somebody's garage or somebody's machine shop. Then if you'll look over to the right, there's also an oven, a sink. There's a microwave up above. It looks like Mama had a little touch in this too because there's some potted plants in there, a vase in there as well.
And the two hanging
chairs
stools as well.
Yeah.
The refrigerator, the green refrigerator, and the
let
corrugated
me just
wall.
point this out about the refrigerator. That is an older model refrigerator that he painted the same color as the workbench. Did you pick up on that?
Mm-hmm. Pretty cool.
Okay. There's also the frosted glass bricks back on the back wall there, and I assume that is probably, since the sink, if you look underneath the brick wall, there's a sink under there, a great big old-fashioned what they called a mop sink back in the day. So, but the glass wall, I think that's not real. I think that is a fake wall. So I would imagine with the sink on this side that there would be a bathroom back there. And notice the wall. It's in corrugated tin. You see that?
Pretty cool.
It is very cool. Gulf sign. Probably paid a few $100s for that. It's a porcelain sign.
And then the shiplap wall in the back behind the truck. Isn't that all the rage now, is to do shiplap inside your house?
So you take the sheetrock down, or don't even take the sheetrock down,
just
nail it up right over the top of it. I mean, if you think about it and you look at it closely, this particular mystery garage from a guy by the name of Rob Shingle is not that hard to do. And if you get out there and spend, say, a winter or during bad weather, you too could have a garage like that.
And if you want to, if you have a mystery garage you would like to have on our show, get a hold of us at info@inwheeltime.com.
And another reminder, too, if you're a member of a car club, we'd like to put your group in our car club spotlight. All you got to do is shoot us an email with the contact information to info@inwheeltime.com. Okay, let's take a look at This Week in Automotive History, and Conrad happens to have that.
So lots of stuff going on. In 1899, Jacob German, an operator of a taxi cab, became the first driver to be arrested for speeding when he was stopped by a bicycle cop because he was driving above the speed of 12 miles an hour on Lexington Avenue in Manhattan, New York City.
Perfect place,
of course, that's where it's all going to start. In 1956, General Motors opened its brand new $125 million GM Technical Center in Warren, Michigan. And I'll tell you, $125 million in 1956 was a lot of money. While in 2003, GM spent $1 billion renovating that same technical center there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, well, I've been there many, many times.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of the center of all things. And you got to remember, in 1999, GM consolidated everything because it was pretty much a Chevrolet-centric place. Now all brands hang out there.
Oh.
In 1958, in Monaco, France, on this day, Team Lotus made its debut in Formula One at the Monaco Grand Prix. In 1961, Ford Motor Company completed a highly modified stretch Lincoln Continental convertible for the U.S. Secret Service to be used as a presidential limousine, and it was modified by Hess and Eisenhardt Company, and they've done a lot of custom stuff through the year. That SS-100X vehicle happened to also be the vehicle Kennedy was assassinated in driving through Dallas.
That's in the Henry Ford Museum
in Dearborn, Michigan, right?
Yeah, it is.
And that's still they still have that present there. In 1971, this week, Anthony Wayne Stewart, Tony Stewart, was born in Columbus, Indiana. In 1977, a couple of firsts happened at Indianapolis. In 1977, Janet Guthrie became the first female to qualify for the Indy 500.
Remember that.
In 1991, Willie T. Ribbs became the first African-American to qualify for the Indy 500. And then in 2005, on this day, Toyota announced that it was going to be building a hybrid version of the Toyota Camry in Georgetown, at its Georgetown, Kentucky plant. So that was the first hybrid that was built in the United States.
Interesting. All right. Thank you, sir. Just ahead, this week's automotive news. We are all things automotive here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. Thank you for joining us.
Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild to wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions, don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hey, you're on the In Wheel Time Car Show. Thanks for joining us today. Time now for some of the stories making automotive news headlines. And the biggest headline of all, and we've been talking about this for many weeks now, and it's a sad day because Hertz Global Holdings filed for bankruptcy in Delaware. after sweeping travel restrictions and the global economic collapse destroyed demand for its rental cars. Chapter 11 filing shows Hertz to keep operating while it devises a plan to pay its creditors and turn around the business. The action includes the company's U.S. and Canadian subsidiaries, but does not cover Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, according to a statement last night. Hertz said it had $1 billion in cash to support its operations, which include Hertz, Dollar Thrifty, Firefly, Hertz Car Sales, and Donlin, but it might need to raise more, perhaps through added borrowings, while the bankruptcy process moves forward, according to Hertz. Hertz has traditionally been a leading buyer of fleet cars from the Detroit 3 and other automakers. Last year, Hertz held as many as 567,000 vehicles in its U.S. fleet. Hertz, I didn't know this, originally was known as Rent-A-Car Incorporated.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Was founded in Chicago in 1918.
And if you go online, you can find that they are selling those yellow Corvettes that they've rented.
Yes, I saw that.
So that, you're looking to pick up an inexpensive Corvette, might be a place to get it.
As of February, Hertz operated 12,400 locations worldwide.
Wow.
Sad.
They'll recover. They'll recover.
I hope so.
Yeah, going through Chapter 11, that's the purpose of Chapter 11.
You have jack stands at your house? Most every car guy does.
Yes, I do.
Okay, you heard this story probably. Harbor Freight is now recalling its Pittsburgh brand 6-ton and 3-ton jack stands over risks that they could collapse during use.
They only have a 1-ton capacity.
According to a filing with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the company is specifically recalling 1.7 million units with model, well, I ain't going to go to the model numbers, but you can find these numbers on the label on the top part of the stand on 3-ton units or a yellow sticker on the base of the 6-ton units. 56,371, 61,196, and 61,197. Bingo. That's it. B3. According to Harbor Freight's filing, the problem with these jack stands is that due to worn tooling at the factory, the pawl, that's the teeth,
that lock, yeah,
that engages with the toothed height adjustable part of the stand doesn't do so sufficiently to reliably lock it in place. A bump or a knock could cause the pawl to disengage, dropping the vehicle suddenly. And
how would you like to be the first person to have to report that, or have your friend have to report it?
Yeah, because you're dead.
You're flat Stanley underneath it.
Exactly. And when I was in my 20s, I didn't care anything about that. Just do the floor stand. I ain't gonna put a jack stand under it. Or originally, how about the bumper jack?
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, oh, yeah.
You didn't put anything underneath it. Just got under there and did it. Didn't even think about it. Today, you're going, I'm not too sure.
I'd usually throw the tires underneath it, just so if it did come down, it wouldn't totally kill me. It just maim me.
Just maim you. So you
I threw my neighbor's little brother underneath
Conrad.
it.
Okay. Harbor Freight, once stores are reopened, where you're reimbursed for them with a gift store card or the current shelf price.
So you can't get your money back, but you can get a gift card to buy something else they're going to recall later.
Screw you, buddy. Yeah, there's that.
Great.
Mm-hmm. I was a big fan of Walmart jack stands back in the day, and I guess I'm back at Walmart looking at their jack stands. What do you think?
Actually, I stopped at Northern Tool on the way home last week.
Well, this was Harbor Freight.
I know.
Okay.
But Northern Tool is their competitor.
Oh, they are?
In that tool shop kind of thing.
Okay. Are they actually competitors? Because I always think
they are. Yeah,
I always thought of Harbor Freight as kind of like bottom line tools.
No.
Well,
Northern Tools is more of a warehouse look on the inside of it.
Yeah, if you walked into a Harbor Freight or a Northern Tool, I don't know that you'd be able to tell much of the difference once you got inside, other than their brand naming of stuff. They sell a lot of the same stuff.
In Time Car Show continues after this quick break.
A crying baby is impossible to ignore, but a quiet baby can be easy to forget. Every year, dozens of children lose their lives because otherwise attentive adults forgot they were in the back seat. It only takes a moment for a car to heat up to dangerous levels, even on cooler days. So get in the habit of always looking in the back seat and use reminders to ensure baby is always with you. Where's baby? Look before you lock. Paid for by NHTSA.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus, so stay a minimum of 6 feet away from others and stay home if you can. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
And welcome to hour number 2 of the Memorial Weekend in Wheel Time Car Show. Coming up, we continue our discussion about in-car infotainment systems this hour, focusing on the FCA Uconnect system.
Your favorite.
It is my favorite, with the folks from FCA. We'll also have our Ram Tracks feature. We've got the stories making automotive news headlines this week. We got that and more in hour number 2 of this week's In Wheel Time Car Show. Howdy along with Mike out of this world Mars down there. King Conrad DeLong here. Don Armstrong here. Glad you could join us. And it's been an interesting hour talking to J.D. Power about infotainment systems. And I've really, I learned a lot.
It really did.
But, you know, I had that kind of gut conquests in the industry, and especially in trucks. Because here was Ram at number 3. Ram is now pulled up to number 2, and they continue to climb. And there's a reason for that, I think. Not only do they build a great vehicle, but they also have this infotainment system that is probably, in my opinion anyway, and yes, I am a little bit biased, I think it is probably the best. I think GM is probably number 2, and I think that there are some others that may be number 3, and not necessarily Ford. So joining us now, Vincent Galante and Mr. Nick Kappa.
The Nick Kappa.
The famous Nick Kappa with FCA. Nick.
I'm not hearing them.
I'm not hearing them either. But so you guys just stand by for a second, because we're not hearing you guys, and it's probably something that we're doing on our end. But anyway, we're going to talk about the Uconnect 5 system, I hope. Are we able to do that, Mr. Mars? We've got multiple people here. Yeah, Jeff,
and none of us know what we're doing.
None of
it. This is new to us, so
no, it's new to you. It's not new to us. It's new to you.
Because you're the one responsible
so
for
Jeff,
this.
why don't you put us back on, and while those two
Clearly
guys...
they can hear us because they're laughing at us.
Yeah, he can hear us.
We're struggling doing this.
Well, I'm not. I'm not struggling at all. Don't throw me in this pile of soup. I don't need this. So when you guys get it all figured out over there, then we'll continue with them. But Conrad, for you and I know that you don't drive any of the press vehicles, and you drive a Ford. Mm-hmm. Does that van of yours, does it have a Uconnect in it? I mean,
it has
a sync?
It has sync, which is kind of a voice activated. There's not really a dashboard panel that tells you a lot, but you voice command.
So when you bought it, you didn't upgrade to.
It didn't have it in that.
It didn't even offer it.
It didn't even offer it. But the sync program is Ford's infotainment system.
Right.
So I can talk to the radio. I can.
Does it have GPS in it?
No, it doesn't. But I use my phone, and my phone will talk to me through it. So
when you connect
my phone,
you Bluetooth your phone.
It Bluetooths to my phone,
okay.
So I can get all of that interaction on my Apple to give me all of that stuff through the sound system in the truck. But it's not as I've watched you in the Uconnect. It's not as interactive as that is. It's a little kind of like attaching something to the sync versus an integrated system within the Ford.
So it seems that you have a different perspective than I do, because one of the things that I do not do is I do not Bluetooth my car. I don't use. I have. Not Apple CarPlay. I have Android Auto. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't Bluetooth my phone to the car. I don't know why. I guess that I just don't do it.
Oh, it's funny because we do, even, because we go to California frequently enough to see the kids.
You drive?
No. But we'll fly into Fresno or Sacramento or San Francisco and get a rent car. And first thing we do when we get in the rent car is go ahead and Bluetooth.
That's me messing with you here.
Stop. That's, we Bluetooth into the rent car so we can get the phone to do all of the things through the rent car.
Uh-huh.
And that's generally pretty easy to do. We've done it enough times in all the different brands and stuff. You can kind of walk your way through it. But some of the higher-end stuff that the infotainment systems do can be rather confusing as you switch between brands, because everybody has their own way of doing it. Some of them want to use the Apple Play and Android, which is fine because that makes it a little bit more contiguous between brands. But then you get into some of them that don't use those platforms to do it, and then you kind of struggle to use all of those applications that are available to you through their infotainment system. And then I just go back to pushing buttons and turning knobs.
So Apple CarPlay works for you.
Apple CarPlay works for me. Yeah, I don't have any. I don't have any real issues with it.
You did okay in learning the Apple CarPlay system.
Yeah,
because it has its own system.
It has its own system, but there's a similarity in its functionality to what's coming up, to what comes up on the screen. And talking about potting something up is to bring up the sound coming from Mike's laptop so we can hear the guys from FCA talking to.
You guys hear us now?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay. Hey, guys.
Man, you guys are talking about the stands, and I actually have some of those in my garage. I gotta go and read some numbers off, man.
Well, I have to tell you, Nick, it's all your fault. We're just going to blame it on you because I'm sure that your wife does and your kids do and everybody else does. So we're just going to jump in on that bandwagon too. It's all your fault.
I don't have any of those things you just listed. And I guess if there was a way for you to blame me for the welds, my brother would say, yeah, it's him. It's definitely him.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the problem is with the audio, but I can't do anything other than turn them on. So
okay, they're on. Turn them on.
I know it just sounds funny, but at any rate, so Nick and Vincent Galante, we thank you so much. I know that you're going to go, who in the heck are these? These morons don't know anything of what they're doing down there in Houston, Texas. So, Vincent, thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So, the FCA Uconnect 5 system. This is new for you guys.
It is. It's all new, and it's a great evolution of a system, the Uconnect system that we're really proud of today.
And obviously, this has been years in the making, but it's all based on, obviously, the original Uconnect that has evolved over the years. So what's different from with 5 from 4?
So I think the first thing it's going to be, you're going to notice how much more powerful it is. I mean, it is just lightning fast, and it's got a much faster computer in it, and you'll feel that when you're using it. You're going to see bigger screens with higher resolution in our cars. You're going to see some great new content like Alexa and Sirius 360L. And TomTom navigation. You're going to see a lot more personalization, and you'll be able to create some of your own screens, have your own user profile. And I think all the things that our customers tell us that they love about how easy Uconnect is to use, you're going to get all that new content, and it's going to be even easier to use. So
can I about the home screen? The home screen, that's like your favorite part.
The home screen's my favorite part. So, most of the system is an evolution, but the home screen is all new. And what we really set out to do was give our customers the ability to create their own interface, because they know everybody's a little bit different, and they each have kind of certain features and functions that they like to use. So we wanted to make sure they had a place to put those all on one screen. And the thing, Nick and I talk about it all the time, but one of I would say the secrets to Uconnect is you can kind of get anywhere you need to get in the system in 2 presses. So when we did the home screen, it's like, okay, we're going to take this challenge. What would it mean to get there in 1? And so I think it's a really great app in the car that I think everybody's going to love.
So it was two touches, and then you said, okay, so what would it take everybody to get there to 1? How did that conversation go?
Well, I think we're always striving just to continue to make it easier and continue to, help our customers keep their eyes on the road. I mean, there's a lot of benchmarking we do, and there's a lot of really great things out there in, and not just the automotive industry, but in some of the consumer electronics industry. And we do grab inspiration from that, but driving is different. It's different when you're driving. And I think the longer we can keep our customers' eyes on the road, the better. And if your eyes are going to be on the screen longer with 2 presses, than they are with 1. So it was like, can we get them there faster? Can we get things done quicker? Can we make it easier? And that's really where it came from.
And some of that's just listening to your customer feedback as well and responding to what your consumers are telling you they want the system to do. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. And we listen, we get we do tons of research. We do tons of testing. The home screen, and Nick loves this story. I actually tested it on my whole family to make sure that it was the right thing. So my wife tried it, and my mom tried it, and even my kids. Granted, they're professional iPad users at this point, but my 6-year-old daughter was able to build her own interface and use it with like almost no instructions,
and still couldn't reach the pedals.
No, she can't. Not even close. So I think we knew we had something special when we started seeing that kind of ease of use, I would say.
So I have to ask how. Well, first of all, let me back up here before I get to the 12-inch screen in the Ram. How soon is this available? The Uconnect 5 system in the cars that you guys are turning out now? Is it all the new cars?
It'll be starting here this year with the 21 model year Pacifica. Okay. So that's where you'll see it first, and then over the course of time, we haven't announced all the products yet, but you'll start to see that. That was something, one of the other things we talk about with Uconnect is, FCA, we have such cool brands. I mean, as a designer, it's so much fun to work on all the different. I mean, we can work on Alfa Romeos, we can work on Jeeps, we work on Pacificas, Challengers, all these different cars, right? And so we had to make sure we built a system that not only worked across those in an efficient way, but also that really played to the strengths of each of those vehicles, because they're really different. So you'll start to see that over time proliferate into some other cars, but Pacifica will be first.
Does it look different to the users
across the different brands?
Yes. So it'll look different because the screens are bigger and higher resolution. That'll be the first thing, but the graphics on the screen are a bit cleaner than and more simple than what they are in the current system. And we did that on purpose because it's been trends in consumer electronics to have those simpler graphics. But the benefit of it is they're lighter file sizes. So we gave it a faster computer. We designed the graphics in a way that are smaller file size, so it helps it be even faster. And then when you talk about each of the different brands, we've used different colors, textures, backgrounds, and really, I think something, technology interfacing with the interior design of the cars. We put a ton of effort into the interiors of our cars to make them, the color and materials, the way they feel, the way they look. And we don't want the technology to look out of place. It wants to harmoniously fit with the interior. So, making, having the adjustability in those colors and even in the different screen sizes that we're going to offer, really, it's about creating this experience in the vehicle that is consistent, whether it's a physical part or if it's digital.
I just had a little streak of jealousy come over me going, what a cool job this guy's got. You suck.
Exactly. So here's another one of my favorite pieces is you have 5 different profiles that you can have in the system. So Mike, sometimes Don gets in your car and he screws it up because he's like 8 feet tall, messes with the pedals and everything else. So you got a button for you touch that button, all your settings go back, including your radio station, not just the creature features, but everything goes right back to where it was. You do that 5 different profiles in the system.
That is so cool. Well, that's a first. I've never heard of that. I guess I'm going to have to get Kimberly to get me a Pacifica as soon as the new Connect 5 is in the Pacifica down here.
Yeah, we'll line you up with that, man. You know it's coming. Before the end of the year.
Yeah. So not only do you have a neat job, apparently you're a pretty cool computer geek as well. Has this been a whole part of your life? I mean, I guess that you've grown up with computers since you were a child.
I do love technology, and actually I have when we started designing the system, we're seeing so much change in the automotive industry. I mean, you guys mentioned the big screen in the Ram, the 12-inch screen in the Ram, and that's really, it's a traditional segment. And to see that kind of transformation and those sorts of things pop up there, we said, man, this is something's happening here. So, in the design office, we're always a few years ahead of what's on the market. And so the first thing we did is build up the team and build up the team with all different skill sets. So I've tripled the amount of designers I used to have. And some of them have gaming and entertainment backgrounds. Some of them have web and mobile backgrounds. Some of them have psychology backgrounds. We have people that have masters in human-computer interaction. So I'm supported by a whole team of computer geeks.
From different points of view, it sounds like.
With all different points of view. And, my background is more traditional car designer background. So I can bring some of that, I've just always had a love for cars and a love for making things. So the, with that in combination with all the diversity that we have in the studio, I think it allows us to make some really great things.
So at some point, the car is going to be able to see what I think.
We're working on that right now. We gotta wait for it. It's coming.
And
it'll be part of the hovercraft Grand Cherokee that's coming next.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, Nick, the reason that Nick doesn't have any hair because his brain is trying to come out of his head. That's it. Hey, it's great to talk to you guys, and we really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the Uconnect system. Of course, Texas being the #1 truck capital of the entire world, Ram is a huge, huge part of it. You see more and more of them on the streets every day, and we're not talking about the work truck kind. We're talking about the one that you can take to the symphony or your favorite country concert.
Nice truck. Yeah, I like that.
Well, you guys are great. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Saturday to talk to us. We really appreciate it. Vincent Galante and Nick Kappa, God bless you. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Great weekend. See you later.
Right, you do the same. All right.
Bye.
Oh, my
That
gosh.
was awesome. That was awesome.
That is. Yeah, I had no clue. Did you?
Well, no, to see his range of engineers that he brings in to develop the system as opposed to the same people doing it over and over again. They're bringing that knowledge to the system through all of these different disciplines to make the system that much smarter.
Can you imagine walking into that office? You know what you're going to see?
I'm going to see a
bunch of 22-year-olds in there.
Yeah. I'll see a bunch of smart people, and I'm going to sit there with my head down and just kind of listen for a while.
And sneak around.
I do that anyhow.
You do that. Yeah, exactly. So
we're not going into that.
So I'm standing in front of the sink this morning, brushing my teeth, and the dog is going nuts, whining and crying. I'm thinking, somebody's here. Who is it? Conrad, sneaking in the gate.
I'm howling at your dog.
I know. I could hear you when she was howling back at you.
We were talking. It's that puppy interface that I have. Puppy love.
Puppy interface. Okay. Well, we'll go with that. Yeah, we could go to jail for that. Thank you, Jeff Zekin. We really appreciate that.
Be quiet over there.
Exactly.
Speaking of the puppy interface, she enters the room.
So
hi, Susie.
I have to tell you that. So the problem with the audio was me. I did it. I'm sorry.
Oh, now he admits it after they're gone.
Well, yeah.
You got to turn it on, Don.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing else going on over here.
But we had a great view of David's backside as he was leaning over, telling you which switch to turn on.
Don't we always? Ray absolutely adores it. We've got more of In Wheel Time coming up right after this quick break.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
What?
Oh, my goodness gracious alive. Well, it's one of those Saturdays. We continue to learn a little bit about the technology that is involved in doing a television show.
He doesn't have the car show video. I have the car show video.
I'm sorry?
Nothing. He's talking to me, but his mic was on.
Yeah, because we're on. Guess what? There's that. All right, well, when you get Richard, then we'll just go from there. I do have a little thing that I did want to mention to you that I ran across, and this was from the Austin American. Public health officials comment, this is the headline, public health officials comment complicates F1 U.S. Grand Prix hopes for Austin in 2020. So what about racing in Austin, namely the Formula One U.S. Grand Prix that was originally scheduled for October 25th? Well, Austin County Health Authority, Dr. Mark Escott, is asking both festival and race fans to slow down. He says, we're working on a plan to help forecast what we think is going to be reasonable, but looking through the end of December, we don't have any indications at this stage that we would be able to mitigate risk enough to have large events, particularly ones with over 2,500 spectators.
Oh, it'd be way more than that at the F1 track in Austin. Be way more
That
than
poor track
2,500.
is doomed. And the other reason that I wanted to mention that is because the Formula One track, Circuit of the Americas, has absolutely the worst PR, news, press relations department in the entire world.
They don't have one. I mean,
Hello?
seriously, they don't have one.
They have somebody named, or did have somebody named. There was a person that had the title.
But they don't do any promotion.
None.
Thinking in Austin that you would do some promotion in San Antonio, you do some promotion in Houston, you do some promotion in Dallas. They just expect people to show up without doing any promotion outside the city. It's amazing how poorly they facilitate all of that. Well, you know, one of the other things, since we just talked to the folks from FCA, did you know that FCA has filed the paperwork to trademark Dakota again?
I read that.
As a vehicle part and exterior trim package. So I'm assuming somewhere in the sneaky background of all of this, there's another mid-sized truck coming out from Dodge.
I agree.
You had
From
to.
Ram.
Sooner or later, they had to.
Right.
Yeah.
The segment's just gotten too big.
Well, and not only that, but there's also a very large rumor going around that Ford and other manufacturers are going to get back into, which I've ballyhooed all these many months and years since its demise, is the compact truck.
Below the Ranger,
Correct.
below the Colorado and
Yeah.
stuff. So they're going to bring back the Chevy Love truck.
The Chevy Love.
Remember that one?
I do remember the Chevy Love. Let me ask you this: it wasn't the Chevy Love like a Mazda or something?
Yeah, it was a Japanese import.
Was it
I think it was an Isuzu product.
Yeah, Isuzu.
That wasn't the B2000 or something?
No. That was the
it
Ford. That was the early Ford Ranger, and the B2000 shared a platform. The Chevy Love was an Isuzu product. I want to see them bring back the Volkswagen Rabbit pickup truck. Remember they did.
Well,
that
if you're
for a
going to
few
go there,
years.
then let's just mess with all that. Just bring back the Thing.
Well, give me an El Camino.
I could live
back
with
again,
that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Excuse you, Farfik Nugan, right?
The only problem with the Chevy, with the Volkswagen Thing, is that it was a complete and total rust bucket.
Well, it's because the water just sat in it because most people didn't put the top on, and
it was cheap. Basically what it was a Volkswagen Beetle with this squared body on it that had no top.
And at least Manx was smart enough to put a fiberglass body on it instead of a steel body.
I wonder how much you could get. I wonder how much you would actually have to pay for an original Myers Manx body on a Volkswagen.
Probably quite a bit. I think the repos are a lot cheaper than buying an original. I think the originals are quite collectible now.
Repos, you're talking about reproductions.
Repops, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a few minutes ago how the truck market in the South and in Texas is still going well. As much of a hit as the automotive industry took through the month of April, trucks in the South and in the West actually held pretty strong. They went down, but not nearly down as much as the car market did. So the big three trucks have held their pace, some of that because of massive incentives that were being offered by the manufacturers, but they haven't seen the big, huge sales declines that they did in the car side of things.
Yeah, there are going to be cars that are going to sit on lots for a long, long time. Nobody's buying cars. And not only that, but you are going to be able to buy vehicles on the used car market under 35,000 miles for next to nothing.
Well, look at the way all those Hertz cars may come back.
And there's the reason.
Come back into the used cars. Well, talking to a couple of the dealers here in town, they're a little nervous about truck inventory because the trucks are still selling well, but they've been out of production for 2-3 months. And in that, a lot of the startup production that happened May 18th, May 18th is building 2021 models. The Arlington assembly plant now is building 2021 Suburbans and Tahoes. And think about it, it goes through their mid-cycle refresh. So the front end of it looks like the new Chevy pickup truck, but the back end of it looks like the Suburban and Tahoe that it was just behind us.
What?
So, But that's what they're building there now once they started production.
Well, you know, I've
Monday.
got another Chevy truck that I'm driving this week that I'm going to have a review on in the weeks to come. And, well.
That's an RS, right?
RST.
RST. Well, I think
which to me would mean a rally sport truck.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's what it means.
I don't know what it means. I just thought that it's interesting. All right. We've got, finally, Richard Tomlin on the line with us. Richard, hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. What's going on, guys?
Well, you are going on because we were going to talk about the Houston Region SCCA, which is a Sports Car Club of America's time trials. It's coming up next weekend at MSR Houston. I know that you're heavily involved in that.
Yep. So we're out here now today doing an actual club race, but next week we've got our time trials, which is a feeder program for the road race series. Gives people that never played on a track a chance to actually come out and play. So next weekend, hop on HOUSECA.com. You can find out all your information there. We've got it starting out from literally just your street car to full-fledged race cars.
So do you have to be a member of SCCA to do that? Richard?
Do you have to be a member to come out and race next weekend? Oh, he might not be able to hear us.
He can't hear us, I don't think.
But look at the cars go fast.
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute. Did I say that?
Now I can hear you guys. Go ahead.
Okay. So do you have to be an SCCA member to be able to race?
Yes, you would have to be an SCCA member, but that's really not difficult. We can help you out with that as well. That is, again, just the HOUSECA.com to get on there. Not a problem.
And can they show up next week and join?
You can join online, or you could join at the site, actually.
Okay.
And for people that don't want to commit fully, we actually offer a weekend membership as well, which I think is $15. So come out and try it, see if you like it. You'll be addicted. Come have some fun with cars.
We are addicted. We're not even members, and we're addicted. Yeah. I'll tell you what, that is really a cool facility and a great track. How long is that track down there at Motorsports Resort?
2.4 miles, 17 turns.
We're going to bring Don's Corvette down next weekend.
I keep talking about that. We need to bring him down here.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I'll let you drive it. I'll sit in the passenger seat, and then you can show me how to take those turns at light speed.
I'm ready to help at any time. Not a problem.
I'll bet you are.
Particularly in your car.
15 seconds, and you'll have the cars come by one more time, and then I will let you guys go, and we'll chat again soon.
All right. Well, we look forward to that. Thank you very much, and we're going to wait for them to roll by here. Here they come now.
Here they come.
Yeah. How fun is that? Man, I could do that, you know.
So they're going clockwise today.
I think that's the way that track is set up.
No, they do switch to counterclockwise, and if you go on to their schedule at MSR Houston.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they'll go clockwise, and then they'll switch to counterclockwise. It's like a totally different track when they go
guys,
counterclockwise.
I appreciate it. I will talk to you soon. Sorry about being late.
Thanks, Richard.
Problem.
Next weekend,
Thank you.
man.
All right. Richard Tomlin with Apex is down at, well, actually he's doing
He's also the president of the Houston region of the SCCA.
Well, yeah, waving the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, in a way. All right. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll actually talk to Ashton Munoz, I hope. And he's with the Charger brand and talk about the Uconnect performance pages. That's coming up along with Conrad's Car Clinic. So we invite you, huh?
Well, one thing, we did get a post that Houston Raceway Park did post up this morning that the NHRA presented by Pennzoil is rescheduled for October 23rd through the 25th of 2020. So you were correct. I was wrong. You are right. Oh, master.
I like that. I like that. I like that genuflect. Did you notice that?
You've got
Yay
that.
me!
You've got that on tape.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Do you know what teens just love? Not being told what you're supposed to love. That's not anyone's business but yours. It doesn't matter what you love, but if you love it, click it. That includes you too. Because in 2018, 42% of Texas teens who died in traffic crashes were not wearing their seatbelts. Make sure everyone is buckled up. Every rider, every ride. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation.
And thank you for joining us today on In Wheel Time, Houston's most popular live weekly award-winning car talk show. Along with Mike Out of This World Mars,
Howdy,
it's all
Mom.
his fault. And King Conrad DeLong.
I'm usually to blame, but we're going to blame Zekin as well.
Now, Zekin is running the video today. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad you could join us. Thanks so much. We really appreciate it. So we've been really kind of focusing on infotainment systems. Your car probably has one. There are various and sundry kinds of them. Some are minuscule, like Conrad's, that he Bluetooths.
As the crowd laughs. But go ahead, Don. We'll move on from that. Don't be giving away my secrets.
You know, I posted something yesterday about a public official somewhere. I don't remember where it was. But she was trying to open the city parks and the tennis facilities. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah.
And she was explaining how they are sanitizing balls, tennis balls, and how to proceed playing tennis
Without touching your balls?
Well, but by marking your balls with an X or a circle or your initial on them. And needless to say, the press that was in attendance there all had smirks, and there was a lot of
bunch of 12-year-old boys in the press corps that day.
Don got out the permanent marker he was showing me this morning.
That's right. Hey, the extra thick one.
Oh, we've lost control.
Okay.
And now our poor guest has to follow that story in.
So now, with that in mind, please let's go live, direct, and right to the FCA and Charger brand, Ashton Munoz, who's going to talk to us about performance pages, which has nothing to do with what we were just talking about. Ashton, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. But it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we want to continue to talk about the Uconnect system and more specifically the performance pages. And I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of Uconnect, always have been. I've bragged about it for years on this program. And the Uconnect system performance pages take it one step further. So how did you develop that? And by the way, I really do like the Super B placard that you've got there behind
and
you.
the
That would
T-shirt.
look really good back here.
Oh, yeah, right
And
back here.
Where did you get the dang
wow.
T-shirt?
Yeah, I got the Super B placard in the kitchen, and so I mean that's just how I'm living with Dodge stuff in my kitchen. So,
So apparently you're a big fan of the Super B. I actually went to high school with a friend of mine that his dad bought him a brand new Super B back in 1969, 70. Yeah, with the pistol grip shifter, and it was bad to the bone.
Oh,
But
yeah.
moving on from that, I want to talk about the performance pages that are in some of the FCA brands, including the Dodge Charger.
That's right. Yeah. So, and feel free to jump in. But we have two different kinds of performance pages. We have the regular performance pages that comes on most of the Dodge vehicles. So Challenger, Charger, Durango, the base models. And then we have an SRT performance pages. And that is found on our Scat Pack models with the 6.4 liter Hemi and our Hellcat models, the 6.2 liter supercharged Hemi. They're a tad bit different on what it is, but and I can get into that for sure. But just the super high level, just for the people that are listening that aren't as familiar with the performance pages, maybe like you and I are, it basically gives the driver tools to become more familiar with their vehicle's performance. So anything from real-time performance data, timers, G-forces, gauges, engine performance. And then a second part of that is the real cool feature, in my opinion. It gives the driver the ability to change drive modes on the fly. So kind of what used to be like thousands of dollars of data logging equipment, obviously integrated now into the Uconnect system and reprogramming your Dodge to behave totally different. is literally a few taps away on the screen.
Oh, wow.
Well, I have to admit to you, the last time that I had, and I think it was the 392 Scat Pack, what I did manage to do was get it into a high performance portion of it where I used the paddle shifters in it. And man, what a world of difference it had when I went to shift the car manually with the paddle shifters. It was bam, 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 bam. I mean, the shifts were hard, they were fast, and if I didn't have traction control on, I guarantee you would have broke the tires loose.
You better pay attention because it comes fast. In between gears, it doesn't lose
It's
much.
like an F1 car.
It feels like you're a race car driver when you're in there banging through the paddle shifters, or even in on all the Chargers they have the 8-speed automatic, and that comes with paddle shifters and electronic T shifter. And that ZF transmission is it's such a bulletproof transmission. To your point, when you put it into different modes and the shifting becomes quicker, the shifts are harder. And then obviously traction loosens up a bit. And there's a bunch of different modes. I'd be happy to go into each and actually what changes on the car when you switch modes. So it's pretty cool.
We're ready for the show. Please continue.
So I'll start off with performance pages since that's kind of like the main. We started talking off about that. It basically displays everything needed to navigate through drive modes, performance pages, and race options. Those are kind of the three main things when you get into the screen. When you're just talking performance pages, so you can set it, and I mess with it every time I'm in the car. You have timers, and I can actually pull up. I have a presentation too to show some screens. I don't know.
Yeah, please go ahead.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up real quick, and I can run you guys through exactly what I'm talking about.
Does it come with sound effects too? We want to hear that.
All right, so let's see. I'm going to present my screen. All right, can you guys see that pull up?
Yep. We're here. Yep,
we're there.
Okay, so this is kind of the start of performance pages. You'll see on the left side of the screen there, you'll see home, timers, gauges, G-force, engine, dyno. So it's really cool. Obviously, you can set all these timers. So maybe if you don't have an extra person and you're trying to get the best 0 to 60 times, the best quarter mile times, or you're not at a track that has timing going on, you can still get all these times, anything from 60-foot, reaction, quarter mile, eighth mile, speed, trap speed, and all that.
And that's using the GPS, the built-in GPS in the vehicle.
That's right, yeah. And then if I go down to gauges, this is another really cool one. There are 2 pages full of different kind of gauges that you can actually customly put in here. So if you don't care about oil temp or oil pressure, and you're more concerned about air intake temperature or trans temp, you can actually just switch out these little gauges to whichever gauges suit your needs at the time.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, trans temp's pretty important down here.
Well, particularly, if you're at the track and you've been there made several passes, then you need to start looking at some of those things.
Yeah, and it's useful too. Like you said, at the track, managing your temperatures. It's kind of cool too. Even just messing around, I'll hop into different models of Chargers. Some that have cold air intakes, some that don't. And for some reason, I always like to watch the air intake temp and just see how high it really gets under the hood, how higher than ambient temperature. So it's pretty cool. It's fun, and it's actually useful.
Oh yeah, because the higher the air intake temperature, the lower the performance of the engine because it wants cold air.
Yeah.
The cold dense air has more oxygen. You can add more fuel to it, make more power.
Yep.
Yep. Next one on the gauges is the G-force. So
wow.
It's pretty cool being on a track even. So obviously this is an example of somebody that had their car on a track. Don't mind the 202 numbers; those are just placeholders.
Oh, sure. We've heard that before. Our Mike Mars over here has his on-ramp acceleration
I've
test.
used that story in the past.
But yeah, as you can see, it'll keep track of your past G-forces, whether it's turning, accel, braking, and it'll hold on to those max ones. If you see in that screen, the little red dots, those are obviously your max G-forces. So it's kind of cool to see, what G-forces you're putting the car through, your body through. Some of those are at over past 1G, which is pretty impressive.
So a question is, on these press cars, can we go in and reset it so when we give it back, it goes back at 0 and there is no history left in it?
You can reset it, yep.
Okay, that's good news.
Can you show me how to do that real quick?
And then 2 more on the performance pages part. So engine, this is also a pretty cool one. It shows your horsepower, torque, and then it's kind of a cool little feature our team was able to put in. On the supercharged cars, you'll see in the middle the boost gauge. On the non-supercharged cars, the naturally aspirated cars, that'll just be replaced with the oil pressure.
Oh, okay.
But it is cool seeing the live boost gauge, putting it right on the screen, seeing when you're in boost, how many PSI you are in boost.
And feel the difference in the performance of the vehicle as you go through each of those different modes.
Is there a way to download the information? Let's say you've spent a day at the track and you've saved several of these runs that you've done, so I can download it onto a thumb drive or send it somewhere?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So there's like a few different ways you can do it. Let's just say you're bragging with your friends and you just ran a solid quarter-mile time. If you have your phone plugged into the Uconnect system and you actually take a screenshot of your phone, it'll copy the screen on your phone and it'll take a snapshot of whatever's on your Uconnect screen.
Oh, wow.
So if I just wanted to, send a buddy like, hey, I just ran a 10.96 or something in the quarter mile.
And that would be that buddy that always says, "Oh, you're lying. I'm not believing the words you're saying."
Yeah, you got any witnesses?
Yeah, I got proof.
Kind of like you telling us not to pay any attention to the 202 miles per hour up there.
Exactly.
Yeah, the placeholder. Exactly. That's what I'm going to tell somebody. I'm sorry, that's just a placeholder.
And then another way you can do it in the center console, there's a little USB port in there. If you have a USB drive, you can just download all the information on it too.
Wow. Super simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take it home, put it on your computer, put it on a spreadsheet, whatever it is, depending on how serious you are.
Keep track, keep logs.
How long has this been part of the FCA brand, this particular information that I can download into a thumb drive?
We've had it since 2015, since when we launched the Hellcat. But then we've added new features almost every year to keep it fresh. Do features that correspond with new features physically that we introduce on the car, like line lock, torque reserve, race cooldown, and that's a cool feature too. I can get into that as well.
So Ashton, do you know Vincent Galante?
I don't believe so.
No,
we had him on just before you, and he does the Uconnect aspect of all of this.
Yeah, so you're obviously working in a different office than he is, but somehow in some bizarre way, y'all are y'all are integrated because obviously all this is through the Uconnect system.
Yeah, it's cool. So my primary role, and I always say this, I feel like I have one of the best jobs in the entire company.
You do.
My primary role is, luckily, I get to focus all my energy on the Charger brand. So Vincent, I assume, is focusing all of his energy on the Uconnect. So I'm able to work with their team, come up with different new features, kind of like we mentioned, and make sure everything's integrated into the actual vehicle.
So there is somebody like you that's over there with the Challengers?
Yeah, and we work very closely together. My coworker, Kevin Hellman, he's the Challenger brand manager. And since these cars are built on the same platform, same assembly plant, we both know each other's cars very well and work hand in hand every day.
Nice.
Very nice. So where can we go to find out more information in a leisurely fashion about the performance pages?
So go to Dodge.com, and there's different sections there's a Uconnect section. If you go both into the Challenger vehicle landing page and then the Charger vehicle landing page, there's also little sections under each that kind of get more in depth.
How awesome. Are you, Ashton, are you ever in the Houston area?
Yeah, I was down there actually at the beginning of this year for the Houston Auto Show, and it's funny you mentioned that. Texas is the biggest Charger state in the U.S. So thank you guys for that.
We're the biggest everything in the United States. Have with your Super B logos, have you ever been out to the Hemi Hideout?
No, I talked to a few people while I was down there, and it's on my bucket list to get down there to go. I heard it was absolutely awesome. A bunch of cool people, with awesome cars, and a bunch of what I heard, a bunch of cool facilities that have awesome cars in it down there.
Next time you come to town, contact us, and we will get you a private showing of the Hemi Hideout. It is breathtaking, and I always tell everybody it is a bucket place to visit if you're an automobile aficionado, and it's a super bucket place to visit if you're a Mopar fan.
I will take you up on that offer. I can promise you that.
Vincent, Ashton, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Cool.
We're going to, it is very
I want
cool.
your job.
We all want your job. So just keep looking behind you because here we come. All right, Ashton Munoz, we really appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Speaking of FCA, let's talk to Mr. Mars about the Ram Tracks feature in Wheel Time's Weekly Look into the Ram Nation. I know that Mr. Mars, over there in his stack of papers, has something special for today.
Speaking of which, Connected. We've talked about this in the past a little bit, but there is an app. Ram has an app that you can get to get information, you get connected into their system so that you can track all of your maintenance, and you can schedule maintenance. You can pull up your owner's manual that nobody likes to look at. Well, you can pull it up right there on your phone by using it. You can actually work with dealers through this app to schedule your maintenance, or you can get roadside assistance and accident support if you need it. Of course, you're going to get all your safety and recall notifications through your app so that you know to go to the dealer to get your recalls done. And all of this, part of this all ties into the Uconnect system as a Uconnect subscriber. And there's really a lot of information you can get on your mobile device to go along with this.
How cool is that?
Thank you, sir. We've got more of the In Wheel Time radio program. The In Wheel Time car show right after this.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
All right. We got about 10 minutes of the show left, and so let's get to Conrad's Car Clinic that I promised you we were going to get to last half hour. Well, we didn't have time. So guess what? We're going to do that now. Go right ahead.
Well, in the times of we're living through right now, some of the news media is looking for alternative stories. And how do you bring some of what we're living through right now with an automotive point of view? So I saw this story and about fell out of my chair laughing because it's not necessarily funny, but what a great story. So in Columbus, Ohio, one of the news crews sat out in front of a hospital and they videoed every ambulance that was coming and going as they were dealing with some of the COVID patients and taking pictures of their license plate. They took the pictures of their license plate, went to the DPS, and checked all of those ambulances for outstanding recalls. And they found 50 private ambulances that had showed up at this one hospital that had outstanding recalls on them. And that's how. And then they published this on the news, and I think it put a lot of egg on the face of a lot of.
So,
these
in other words,
ambulance
if you're not
companies.
going to die in the hospital of the COVID virus, chances are you might die of the ambulance ride to the hospital.
Yeah, and these vehicles are typically used to transport patients to and from the hospitals and nursing homes, and have been operating with these potentially dangerous defects that affect all kinds of things like driver and passenger airbags, suspension issues, unrepaired defects that could cause an increased risk of crash or thermal events, fires. As part of the investigation, they reviewed the licensing records of these vehicles, and when the vehicle identification number, and they ran it through www.safercars.gov, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's website where you can check the recalls open on your vehicle, and they discovered that 54 of these ambulances had outstanding recalls on them in Franklin County, which is Columbus, Ohio.
There's also a Franklin County in Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, isn't that where Jack Daniels comes from?
That's why we know about it.
Jack Daniels. Now, only you would know that.
So, again, and I tell you this story that it's really important that you check your personal vehicle for recalls, and it's super simple to do. All you need is your insurance card, because it has the 17-digit serial number on it. Go to safercars.gov, plug your VIN into safercars.gov, and it's going to tell you what recalls have been finished on your vehicle and if any are still open.
And you need to do it multiple times a year.
Because recalls are released fast and furious. Now, I'm going to tell you probably to do it about 4 times a year, once a quarter, just to go on and do it. It won't take you but a few seconds. And in most computers, if you've visited that site before, remember they drop that cookie on you. So as soon as you start typing your VIN in, it's going to populate your full VIN and hit enter, and it's going to tell you whether or not they released anything.
I hate cookies dropped on me.
Get your recall checked on your vehicle often.
Okay. Time now for the events calendar, and I have to tell you that I have heard of a lot of cruise-ins
This weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seems like a lot are back.
Well, actually, last night they did the cruise in up at Freddy's Steak Burger on 1960 in Kirkendall. Tonight, Nifty 50s is going on. So Randy, and a couple of weeks ago, they had 150 vehicles show up, and I went up there with the rally. Debating on whether or not I'm going to go up tonight. Just, again, depends on what's going on with the weather. Freddy's in Fry Road is going to be Wednesday night. Freddy's Steak Burger at 1960 in Eldridge is going to have their Sunday night meet. Starts at 6 o'clock. I'm going to run the rally out there. It is 60s night, so I'm going to go ahead and put on my long hair, my bell bottoms, and my tie-dyed shirt.
Oh, God. I've got a vision of that. I can only imagine what that would be.
Tonight.
Do you actually have bell bottoms?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
Of course
Well,
you do.
you
probably got.
Of course I do.
You probably got pants from the 1960s still in your closet.
I have
don't you?
T-shirts from the 1960s still in my closet. Some tie-dye
my
T-shirts.
God.
Original tie-dyes.
The ones I made. I look like Jerry Garcia, except, well, I won't go there. And, Lisa Bridges, she still is
Because you
on.
were Jerry Garcia.
I was Jerry Garcia. But the Kima Car Show and Meet's going to be tonight at 6 p.m. Also tonight at Freddy's Steak Burger in Magnolia, they're going to have a cruise in Lumberton. Out there in Mars's land. At 5 p.m., they're going to have a meet at the Wiener Schnitzel in Lumberton.
There's a Wiener Schnitzel?
It's new.
It's new.
A new Der Wiener Schnitzel.
No, I think they dropped the Der. It's just a Wiener Schnitzel now. No, not duh.
Duh. That's D-U-H. Duh. Wiener
And then
Schnitzel.
at 5 p.m. tonight is Jeep night at 3 Acres in Santa Fe. And then tomorrow is, and this is in your part of town, Don, tomorrow is Cars and Crawfish at Crawfish 88 on Derry Ashford in Sugarland.
Yeah.
And that
Okay. I don't like crawfish, but I'll stop by and say hello.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In my mind.
So again, lots of stuff is starting back up. So if you want a car show, we want you to start here.
Speaking of a cruise in, there was one this morning, as a matter of fact, that David's son Kyle went to.
And we had Kyle on the radio show a couple of weeks ago.
Ryan
went to. Well, that's
It's
your
one of
other
them.
son was Kyle that your wife doesn't know about.
Yeah, this is just a quick look at it.
Oh, yeah.
So
this is pretty cool.
So Ryan went, and this was at
I see
Fuquay and
everybody
I-45.
everybody's
at
social distancing.
The detail
Not.
The detail garage And they, nice invite, some really nice looking cars there as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were giving out detailing instructions. You said Ryan came over to your house yesterday and spent 3 hours getting his G37 ready to go to this. Did he get your car cleaned up as well? I would have charged him rent. He had to clean yours as well. Hey, and we just spent all this time talking to the FCA people, and look at all the FCA cars that are in that.
Yeah, I know. There's a nice
some fun-looking cars.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them seem to be imports. Yeah.
Well, there's some Chargers, Challengers,
There's a
Jeeps.
Jeep,
There's a
yeah.
nice mix in here.
Yeah.
There's a Mustang over there. Just watch out when it leaves.
Living the pipe dream. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Couple headlines right after this.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Okay, well, welcome back. This is the In Wheel Time Car Show. Glad you could join us today here. We're in the final minutes of our show. Just a couple of things I wanted to bring up. U.S. authorities on Wednesday arrested a former U.S. Army Special Forces soldier and another man in Massachusetts wanted by Japan on charges that they enabled the escape of former Nissan Motor Company boss Carlos Ghosn out of the country. Former U.S. Green Beret Michael Taylor, 59, and his son Peter Taylor, 27, accused of by Japanese authorities of helping Ghosn last year flee to Lebanon to avoid trial over alleged financial wrongdoing.
They have pictures of him at the airport with Ghosn inside the box that they're transporting.
U.S. Marshal Service arrested them in Harvard, Massachusetts at the request of Japan, which in January issued arrest warrants for both men along with a third, some guy by the name of George Antoine Zayak, in connection with facilitating the 29th escape. December 29th escape. Ghosn, who was out of jail on bail at the time, fled to Lebanon, his childhood home, while he was awaiting trial on charges of underreporting earnings, breach of trust, and misappropriation of company funds, all of which, of course, he denies.
And he ain't ever going back to Japan.
He ain't going back to Japan. He's in Lebanon to stay. But the cronies that helped him escape in the music boxes, some instrument boxes, I guess. I don't know. Is
Maybe
that
like
what it was?
like a band would use roadie, big case that they
On
would put a bunch of
wheels
stuff
and
in.
But it had a bunch of holes drilled in it, which should have been your first inkling that there was something live inside of it.
Do you think there were holes drilled in it?
No,
I
there
didn't
were. If you read the whole story,
No, I didn't see the actual holes.
I thought that was pretty funny. How do you get out of Japan without them knowing? Just pack me in your luggage.
Yeah, so to speak. I just think it's funny.
I wonder if they had to pay extra for the carry-on like that.
I think it was a private plane, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
okay.
But what do I know? Yeah, lost luggage. Can you imagine? Sir, we can't find Carlos. We don't know what's happened to him. I can't wait for the book.
But we can give
And
you
the movie.
$70 for the lost bag.
Hey, that's it.
Value.
That's right. And that's it for today's In Wheel Time Car Show. When you're on Facebook, please give us a like. Tell your friends about us. You'll get Conrad's unicorn hunting features along with all things automotive. And while you're there, sign up for our feeds on Twitter, Instagram, Stitcher, Podcast Arena, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and InWheelTime.com. Out of breath. Special thanks to all of our guests today. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley. Our Video and Sales Director is Mr. Jeffrey Zekin. For Mike Out of This World, Mars, and King Conrad DeLong, Don Armstrong saying so long for now, and we hope that you'll join us live every Saturday, noon to 2, right here. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. Have a great week. Be fabulous. Wash those nasty hands and stay sanitary like you know you want to be. We'll see you. Huh?
And don't rub your face.
Don't touch your face. And don't touch this. Have a good time. See ya.